saw a glimpse of the action last week, but we've got everything from the Geneva Motor Show in detail on today's episode. And it's not just me who's here, I've got Bala here with me as well. And so the two of us will take you through all those big highlights. Hi Bala.
Hi Siddharth. What's the real big theme here? I'm trying to look for it. You said there's always a theme here at the Geneva Motor Show. What's the one that you picked up?
You know, it's interesting because every year there is that strong theme. Last year we saw compact SUVs. Before that it was the electric car. Nothing sort of, specific that comes out of the show this year because everybody usually has this one idea. We don't see a reflection of that this time, but despite that, the theme that I'm picking up on is what some of the car makers are doing, or at least some of the exotic car makers are doing, because despite all this talk about, carbon footprint and environmentally conscious and green and batteries and hybrid, there's a nice little return to the good old sports car. It's nice to see that. It's a lot of brands have come here, some of them after a long time, brands like Noble, for example. And you got the NSX concept back there from Honda, once again lurking about, almost ready for production. So sports cars.
And the Ferrari clearly is a showstopper. After a long time, they're coming out with the La Ferrari. Although it's an odd name, would you consider that?
The Ferrari La Ferrari. Yeah, it's going to be weird to say that, but of course they're trying to return to their roots. Definitely the showstopper.
Sure. We'll just check out more of the sports cars.
Yes, we will begin with the gorgeous and sexy La Ferrari. Yeah, the name has caught many of us by surprise and it isn't a big hit. But everything else about this supercar is, well, super. It does 0 to 100 in less than 3 seconds.
Like bees to honey, it's always like that at the Ferrari stand, but especially when there's a new car. We've talked about this, we knew it was coming. Is it really a worthy successor to the Enzo? That was a question everybody was asking. In pure design terms, that question seems to have been answered in the affirmative. And you know what? Everything about this car is special. Everything about it is definitely newsworthy and noteworthy. And it's not just another new Ferrari in that sense, because what they've tried to do is to create also a statement. It is a hybrid. Nobody saw that coming. It does have curves on board. It does take into account everything that you expect from a Ferrari, and then it also ends up delivering just a little bit extra. And you know what? The other part of the story that has me fairly mesmerized and has me thinking, 963 horsepower. Let that sink in. 963 horses, very, very extreme design, and also the fact that it hasn't been executed by Pininfarina, it's been done in-house. All of that makes this definitely the showstopper here at the Geneva Motor Show, and I'm just going to maybe take a few more minutes to let the car and its image sink in.
And that is courtesy its mid-mounted 6.3-litre V12 engine, which is coupled with a hybrid drivetrain, 2 electric motors, one mated to the 7-speed dual-clutch transaxle and another to power the engine accessories. Both draw power from a 132-pound battery pack. Only 499 of the La Ferrari will be made, and yes, we are told they're all spoken for. The other hybrid hypercar is the McLaren P1. The successor to the famed F1, the P1 has a modified version of the MP412C's 3.8-litre twin turbocharged V8 engine with 727 bhp on tap. Sitting in between the mid-mounted engine and the passenger compartment is a 212-pound battery pack, and the combined power on this car is a massive 903 bhp. Staying hyper with the Lamborghini Veneno, only 3 are being made, and yes, they're pre-sold too. Based on the Aventador LP704, but a lot more extreme, the Veneno is also named after a fighting bull, a terror that killed a Spanish matador in 1914. The 6.5-litre V12 on board produces 750 bhp. The car's bodywork is done mostly in carbon fibre, but the car will sport accents done in either red, white or green, like the Italian flag, so that all 3 cars will look slightly different. The car you see with all 3 colour stripes, well, that's the internal company development car. Staying fast is the much anticipated Corvette Stingray, 6.2-litre V8 engine with 450 horses, and after debuting the coupe at Detroit in January, the car has taken its top off at Geneva. Another car going topless is the Toyota 86. The FT86 Open concept is basically the hugely successful 86 with a fabric roof. Looks yummy! Rival Honda's NSX concept looks ready for launch, but it is still cloaked under the guise of being a concept. Up next, the sporty little monster from Porsche, 470 bhp coming from a 3.8-litre flat-six engine. The usually always manual GT3 now opts for a 7-speed PDK dual-clutch autobox. Most GT3 buyers say they use their car on the track. The new gearbox promises the fastest gear changes yet. Ooh, this one's going to be a fun car to drive. The show also had niche sports car brands like Noble, Koenigsegg and Pagani showing off their cars, but the big showstoppers were undoubtedly the Ferrari, Lamborghini and McLaren trio.
So Sid, while you're at all those product launches, I'm with the plastic surgeons really of the auto industry, the Coachbuilders like they call it. This is the hot pink of the Range Rover really, giving it altogether new dimension from the whole image that it has. But really from the Ferraris to the Lamborghinis, there's a whole new wave of demand that's emerging for coach builders like these, and you're seeing plenty of them here at the Geneva Motor Show. Let's go check them out.
The world's most renowned design houses are from Italy, and so let's begin with this gorgeous Italian beauty. The Pininfarina Sergio concept sure got the stares and the attention. Designed as a tribute to the company's late chairman Sergio Pininfarina, this roadster is built on the Ferrari 458 Italia platform with a similar 4.8-litre engine. But also seeing equal interest was the Alfa Romeo concept by the students of an Italian design school. Called the Gloria, the four-door sedan's modern retro combo look was created in collaboration with Alfa Romeo's design department.
I think it's a sedan that is, of course, futuristic, but respecting the tradition of Alfa Romeo. So we use traditional lines in a modern way and some sharp elements, so we will give the futurism and something new to the car. But as you can see in general, with the leather stripes and some other classic Italian things, we try to respect the origin of the brand that is so famous, and it's a glory brand. With a heritage and a very traditional and classic style that, in my opinion, still fresh until today. So it's a modern, traditional thing.
There was yet another Alfa Romeo. The Disco Volante has been coach-built by the Italian touring Superleggera. Inspired by the 1952 model with a similar name, the two-seater Disco will make you dance with its front-mounted 4.7-litre V8 engine that is capable of going from 0 to 100 km per hour in just 4.2 seconds. But what really made us weak in our knees was this gorgeous SLK 65 AMG tuned by the Mercedes-Benz tuning specialist Brabus. And get this, it has got a 6-litre V12 bi-turbo engine which produces 800 horsepower. The car does 0 to 100 in just 3.7 seconds, and it has a top speed of 350 kilometers an hour. And then we saw this. Talk about standing out in the crowd, eh? We thought Paris Hilton had arrived at the show in a customized Range Rover, but it was actually the Hamann Mystery. Based on the new gen Range Rover, this one has a custom-made carbon fiber body and a lower suspension. The reason for doing this will remain, well, somewhat a mystery to us, quite frankly. Hamann has traditionally been the aftermarket tuner for BMWs, but it's now experimenting with other brands like Mercedes-Benz, Range Rover, and even some bikes.
Here, welcome to the booth of Hamann Motorsport, and we're upgrading all luxury cars. Mostly based, we're coming from BMW, but also we're doing the G-Wagon, like the big Range Rovers, Ferrari, Lamborghinis. And here on the show we want to present our world premieres. And this is, for example, our new body kit for the brand new Range Rover, for the big one, as well as for the M6, M5, as well as for G63 and G65 wagon. We are focusing on the upper class because, as you can see, a G65 fully equipped like here basically already costs in Germany 240,000 euros net price. When we increase the car is about 320,000 euros net price.
We also got to see some cool electric roadsters from Paris Electric. 100 kilowatts of power gets this machine to propel it to 100 kilometers per hour in under 5 seconds. It doesn't come cheap at 60,000 euros, but the company says it is seeing a growing interest for these machines.
It's an electrical sportive car, and in our opinion, the most important thing is the cost of the battery. We down the weight of this car to be able to put less battery. So this is a very efficient car on the road because very light, and at the same time we are able to sell it at about 60,000 euros, which is less expensive than most of the sportive electrical cars in the world.
The Coachbuilders and the niche brands also got their fair share of the attention at Geneva this year, and why not, given all the experimenting with the new designs and drivetrains?
Welcome back to the show. You've had the chance to take a look at some of the big shakers and movers here at the Geneva Motor Show, and we've got Chris Bangle now with us, who you've had on the program before too, to talk about some of the big launches and the big debuts. So, Chris, typical cliched question to start things off. Your favorite design at the show?
You know, I don't like questions like that. You know, the best in show.
Most cliched one.
I think the best in show is behind us. It's over here. It's the Rolls-Royce Wraith. The Ferrari. La Ferrari. The Ferrari is a close second. They have different jobs to do. You know, the Ferrari has to fulfill expectations, and this one has to break them because it's showing a sportive side to Rolls-Royce, which most people don't realize the brand has, which it does.
Or should have, yeah.
Well, it does. It does. I mean, from the Ghost on, the original silver Ghost on, which was a racing car, basically, it's always had a very sportive heritage in it that Bentley kind of usurped.
Let's not go there.
We don't have to go there. But those two cars stand out to me in the show.
I have to get the other cliched one out of the way, which is the new 3 Series GT.
It's cool. It's nice. I like it. It's definitely got an easier sense of proportion to work with all that kind of emotion than, let's say, the car I drive a 5 GT. I mean, you know, disclaimer. You know, I did used to work for that company. But those cars.
And you had something to do with that design.
Yeah, well, that one, yeah, but that one comes after my time.
Yeah.
But the young designer on it, Paige Bierman, he's a particular favorite of mine. So I'm very happy to see him have success.
He's got the right ideas. The last time we met, we spoke about how this, there's this big sort of obsession that seems to be taking over at each brand on the crossover and the compact SUV. You see a little bit of a progression of that idea this time with the Renault Captur. But on the whole, where do you see that going? Because they're starting to look more and more car-like and less SUV-like.
Well, you can see there's
emerging?
Yeah, you can see there's more attention to the cariness of it. At this show, probably one of the cariness things that's most significant is this Chorus over there, and it's not trying to be anything other than just a vanilla car, right? But do it very competently. And maybe some of the brands are saying, okay, we have to be a little bit careful about this, overdoing this SUV-ness, because it in itself becomes a niche. And you know, every generation, they say, hates to drive the cars their mom drove. And if mom drove an SUV, then they got to drive something else.
Yeah. Oh, but no, the reason I asked you that is also because, you're starting to see this almost MPV-like, or I mean, that's what they like to call it in Europe anyway.
Yeah.
Vehicles which are essentially now looking more and more like slightly taller hatchbacks, rather than crossover or SUV. I mean, does it necessarily have to have that coupe line to be called crossover anymore?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, for sure. And maybe these things have been so blended and so mixed by now, it's almost impossible to discuss it at all rationally with a term like that, which is a little bit sad, that we lacked vocabulary. But it's, in general, car design is a culture that lacks vocabulary. So it'd be nice to find some new terms, some new inventions. Maybe that's what I'm missing at the show. I'm missing that sense of, here we have a new category, here we have a new definition.
Something that really stands out.
Yeah.
But the other thing that, we, at least this is my observation, in the past when you looked at certain brands, you could sort of look at them and you knew where they came from. There was a certain culture or cultural essence to that design form. That's no longer true either.
Well, you don't find that by Citroën? Come on.
All right.
They come from
barring the
Chromeville,
French.
obviously. They come from the land of chrome. What do you want?
Oh, Citroën is an extreme example, but you know what I mean, like the Asians especially, there used to be this thing about, the Korean cars looked a certain way, the Japanese cars looked is it all just getting too ubiquitous now?
Well, without a doubt. I mean,
the Italians are still Italian enough, I think, but to
I
some
wish.
extent.
I wish. No way.
What do you make of that?
Well, first of all, brands that used to be a little bit, not hysterical, but let's just call it over-enthusiastic, like maybe Hyundai and Kia, they brought on really professional teams, they bring in Europeans as well, and the whole thing gets like settled down, and now we're professional and we know what we're doing, and so the brands look like they're maturing and they work hard on creating an individual identity. I think the Kia front end does that for them quite nicely. Whereas the companies that have been around for a long time, to me, they look like they're missing a vision of where they want to go. I mean, sorry, but if I look at Volkswagen up there and I'm trying to understand how that brand is evolving and why it's different than the Audis and why it's different than the Skodas and all that kind of stuff, I'm not really seeing that as I would have liked to. Let's put it that way. And you mentioned the Italians. And I don't know, except for some outliers, Ferraris, let's leave that on the side, and a Maserati here and there, or a Lamborghini. If you look at what's happening in Fiat, what do you got? You've got a Cinquecento and nothing else, right? Rebadging Chryslers.
That's not Italian, for sure. Which then leads
This is, of course, only going to be shown in India, right?
It is only going to be shown in India and maybe in Turin. All right. No, but jokes apart, the Indian side of things, it's one industry which is, of course, still very much developing, but there's never been such a thing as Indian design or an Indian identity or Indianness to a particular look that emanates out of that market.
Except for the trucks.
But but I'm talking now, of course, of passenger cars and passenger vehicles, let's say. But Tata Motors, Mahindra, you've seen the kind of stuff they've been doing. Should they be developing that sort of an identity more strongly?
Yeah, without a doubt. Every company wants to do that, should do that. The two companies you mentioned, Mahindra, Tata, of course, struggle with this idea, how can we be accepted in a world arena as professional and serious, and at the same time, how can we show that we're not just kowtowing to other people's ideas of taste and applying, hitting everything with the Audi stick or, that kind of thing. So they have challenges in front of them. And my hope is that they're able to distill their very, very strong, very, very deep national culture into more and more things that the whole world says, gosh, I wish we were doing that too. And they can. There's still lots of room for that.
But given the way
I don't think this story's over at all.
No, but given the way that car companies usually work, in the case of Tata Motors, there is now Jaguar Land Rover to sort of look towards, if you know what I mean, for inspiration. And in the case of Mahindra, there's SsangYong, which
let's look somewhere else.
Which is a whole different cup of tea again.
Yeah.
Is that then a worry that it might be too much of an influence coming in from these external sources in that bid to try and be more global?
I mean, I've had a chance to talk with some of the people at the tops of both of those companies, and my hope is that that type of a future lies in the personalities involved. In which case, there's a good chance. I mean, they're serious people. They're very, very awake, very, very in tune to the dangers of influences. But at the same time, they've got to make all these things work, right? So you've got to make a Jaguar and a Land Rover work. I'm not overly convinced that by making a Jaguar for every person pocketbook is the right way to do it, but they seem to think you can go after it like that. Mahindra's made super strong statements with SUVs in their home market. I've got super good reactions. Now it remains to see if they can take on that, capitalize on that, improve on where they feel they can make more of a statement, and not lose a bit of that wonderful homegrownness.
Yeah, that's true.
So once again, I think as opposed to the Chinese, okay, who pretty much blew it in terms of being able to establish a Chinese character other than cheap and gaudy. And now what they're doing is saying, well, look, we can be just as European as the Europeans, given the chance for a lot less money. I think there's still in India...
By hiring the European designers
right. I think in India there's still a very good possibility that the Indian designers, and there's a lot of damn good designers in India, right? The Indian designers are going to make their own statement and still, continue making their own statement.
All right, so one last point then. It's been a depressed market for some time here in Europe. India is looking pretty depressed now as well as sales go. But despite all of that, what's that one big idea you're looking towards? What are we going to expect over the next few months?
Well,
Big vision time.
What, from me or from this industry?
No, from the industry. What do you think we should look forward to?
Well,
or what would you hope to see?
To be quite honest, what I'm missing is an understanding of the relationship between a person and a car, which is evolving, is being acknowledged by these companies. You will see on these stands here more cars from the past being put on the stands as references for their future than I've ever seen before. And we're not talking about retro design.
Yeah.
It's a theme. Okay, one of the things you have to admit, they expanded this hall by X square meters and they had to fill it somehow, so they decided to do it out of their parking lots. Fine, right? Which is okay. But the fact is, the people, I think in general, expect leadership companies to show leadership and show where this whole game is going. And where this is going is not going to be the nth reiteration of where they've already been. It's got to go into a world which has a different context for cars. Young people expect cars to work for them differently. We're not understanding what shared vehicles are in our future. The move towards autonomous driving vehicles is gaining momentum with every day. Right? I went out and saw the guys out in Google just to see how they're doing it out there. This is an unstoppable phenomenon. I would like these people to get ahead of the game. Yesterday I saw some student work. It was very nicely done at the competition done by CDN on seats of the future. What's a car seat if you don't have to drive a car? Interesting concept. So some student work is being done in there, but the idea that a company has encapsulated their future and they're showing us a piece of it now, other than, well, look, it's got an electric drivetrain, whoop-de-weep, it's not happening.
Who's close to it? Who do you think is close to it?
Hard to say. Hard to say, really. Hard to say. The guys who are serious about electric cars are trying to make the electric cars either fit into, identical to a sports car you've already seen, by the way, but different.
Guess what? It's also electric, yeah.
Yeah, it's also electric, so it becomes sort of like this added excuse. But honey, it's also electric, Right. And the other ones go into this, like we're making a cube and we're ignoring anything that has to do with design at all because it's a product, right? Is that the only way forward? Is that where emotions are going to wind up? That's how it's going to keep people passionate about this? I mean, people put money into this industry because they're passionate about it. But I don't know. That I'd like to see.
Yeah, but we can hope.
Yeah.
We can hope.
I hope so.
Thank you. Good to see you as always.
Take care. Take care. Bring some passion back. All right.
Having stepped down as chairman, it was a quiet Geneva Motor Show for Ratan Tata, now the chairman emeritus of the Tata Group. With him was his successor Cyrus Mistry. The Jaguar Land Rover brands were subdued with only an electric Defender concept being shown, but the brands continue to enjoy global success on the sales side. But what was surprising to many was the lack of anything new from Tata Motors at Geneva. The only attractions worth mentioning were the automatic version of the Aria and a powerful looking Tata Safari Storm Rescue concept for Switzerland.
Times in your planning to be able to show things that we're ready to bring to the market and excite people with. And at this moment in time, as you know, we spent a lot of time on our portfolio, our plans, and what's the near and long-term future for us. And I think at the moment it's best for me to keep those under wraps and make sure that we can surprise people in the market rather than let them see it in Geneva, actually.
And the Mahindra Group company didn't disappoint, especially with this SIV1 concept, which is supposedly the company's future design direction. SIV stands for Smart Interface Vehicle and has a 1.6-litre direct injection turbocharged petrol engine. But no confirmation of this compact concept will go into production anytime soon. What we can say for sure is that SsangYong is firming up plans to bring the Rodius to India soon, and many versions of the updated MPV were on display at Geneva. You could say that this could possibly be a Toyota Innova killer in the Indian market, especially by offering something more premium than the Innova. Now that's the update on the Rodius. It's also now been called the Corando Turismo in some markets. The reason we're showing it to you, interest from the Indian market's perspective. In fact, Pavan Goenka shared this with us, that of all the cars in the SsangYong portfolio that are still being considered for India, it's not the Corando compact SUV, it's really this car that seems to be right on top of that list. The reason, we don't have something like this in the Mahindra portfolio. So it's a huge car, as you can see, the design's massive. It's a bit of a facelift really. I mean, they've changed a little bit of the body paneling, but essentially it's still the same platform as the old Rodius, which was a little weird looking and perhaps popular for that reason in little niche pockets in even markets like the UK. But this one is a little bit more staid looking, a little bit more contemporary looking, if you will. And the reason we're excited about it is because, of course, like I said, they're considering it for India, but it can have different seating configurations. There's 7, there's 9, and then there's also 11 seats possible in this one. So it's huge. It's a big people mover. So big families, there are tour and taxi market, things like that could be considered by Mahindra to offer this as a bit of a premium offering in that sort of space.
When we launched that car, our expectation not that high, but there's very high, demands in domestic market, and also very many, inquiries from outside of Korea. So that India has, as far as I know, it's a big family size is big. So that is 11 seaters. So that's good chance in India, plus tourist and the business purpose.
Right, so now you're up to speed on everything latest and fresh from the Geneva Motor Show. What did you think of it? Well, tell us, and as always, I wait for that feedback. You know how to get in touch with me. Until next week, I will say au revoir, but of course, I shall see you then. And until then, please wear your seatbelts. If you're on a two-wheeler, please wear your helmets.